Okay, hello everyone. So we're going to talk a couple days on 6.4. It's exponential growth. We're going to kind of split its growth and decay, but we're going to talk about growth today. So it kind of goes with, we did the graphing stuff last week where the graphs went up really quickly or down really quickly. So exponential growth would go up quickly or decay would go down quickly. So we're just going to talk kind of about the structure of the problems for today. Just to get an idea of how they look and what the parts of the problem mean. Okay, so we have this function, and it will go like this. Okay, and so we've got three kind of things. So this is the initial amount, or what you start with. This is the rate that it grows or decays, but in today's one, it'll be grow. And our rate will always be in decimal form. So we'll talk about that. And then our t is in time. It should be somewhat obvious. And typically what we'll do for a lot of our stuff is it's like a year. Or it could be 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. We won't do we'll do some stuff, but not today, like in months or whatever. So today's assignment should be really simple. You're just going to have to identify the initial amount, so just what's in the front, and the rate of growth as a percent. We'll do that in a second. And then you'll have to evaluate when t equals 5. Okay, so let's look at what that might look like. Okay, so it's going to say what's the initial amount. So the initial amount is 250, really simple. And then it wants to know the rate. Okay, so we have right now 0.45. It's in, it says it's in decimal form, but in the directions it's going to say what is the rate in as a percent. So when we take a decimal, we need to move it over 2 spaces no matter what. And so we end up with a rate of 45%. Okay. All right. And then, so those should be simple. It's just what are those problems right there. There's going to be a different version of this decimal thing that I'll show you in a minute. And then it wants you to evaluate when t equals 5. Okay, now you're going to need a calculator for this because first, what's 1 plus 0.45 is 1.45. But then it wants us to evaluate when t equals 5. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't really want to do 1.45 times 1.45 times 1.45. Use a calculator. Okay, so let me get my calculator out here really fast. And we're going to do 1.45 to the 5th power. And I get 6.4 and it 0.9734, like it keeps going forever or a really long time. So just you can round it off to 2 decimal places. And then multiply 250 times 6.41 and we get 1,602.5 or about there. Okay, so I obviously I don't need to see you do 1.45 times 1.45. Like, you don't need to do it by hand. Just write it down like I did. I fully expect you to use a calculator. Okay, so shouldn't be too awful, hopefully. Let's see if I didn't round it off. Yeah, so if you just like kept typing stuff in the calculator, you get 1,602.43. So totally fine. It does say round your answer to the nearest tenth. So it may or may not. If you're within 1, I think the book would probably put this as 1,602.4. So if you're off, like this number right here is just off by 1, then you're good. Don't even worry about it. Okay, so let's look at it. It had 1 plus 0.45, where this one, we need to figure out what's the A and what's the R. Okay, decimal to a percent, right 2 spaces. Okay, so that's something you're going to have to memorize. All right, other than that, I think it should be pretty straightforward. So we'll talk a little bit about decay tomorrow, and then we'll actually do some solving on Wednesday. Okay, all right, so have a great rest of your day. Hope you're doing well, and we'll see you tomorrow. One, because they do a couple other things. Okay, so our initial amount is 50, and our rate on this one is just 0.3. But remember what I said, move the decimal 2 spaces. So if the decimal ends up over here, I got to fill in the blank, and it's really 30%. Okay, and so then so some of them won't have the 1 plus, so you just look at like this decimal part. Okay, this last one is just 1.3, so you're just looking at what's after the decimal, or how much bigger than 1 is it? 0.3. Okay, and so again, what is it when it's 5? When t is 5, use your calculator. 1.3 to the 5th power, and I get 3.71 times 50, and I got 185.5. Okay, so always exponent first, then multiply at the end. Okay, so if we had our initial amount is 215, and then the rate on this one, it's the decimal 0.04, 2 spaces, 4%. Okay, and then plug it in. So we get 1.04 to the 5th power is 1.22. I rounded that off. So it was 1.216. So the 6 makes the other one round up. So 215 times 1.22 is 30. Oh, I typed that in wrong. 215 times 1.22 is 262.3. Okay, so you'll have a few of those. All right, and then the other thing you'll have to do, and this should be very big, do the quicker, but it's going to say write a function that represents the situation. Okay, so it's just going to be taking a situation where, let's see, so your starting salary, like at a job, of let's say $40,000 increases 3% each year. Okay, so if we go back to so the A is the initial amount, so your starting salary, here's our A, and then here's our R. And so when we write it in, we would say 40,000, and this is 1, and then we need to change that or the percent into a decimal. So if we have 3%, we take the 3, and there's a decimal like right there. And so if we did decimal to percent, we go to the right. Percent to decimal, we go to the left 2 spaces. And so I have a whole, so 0.03. 1.03. Okay, so really the work that's involved is just taking the percent and making it a decimal. Now, if the easy percents are, 48%, 0.48, 92%, 0.92. Okay, the ones that are harder are when it's single numbers, or sometimes people trip up when it's like 20%. You could put 1.20. You don't have to put the 0 at the very end, but if you did, that's fine. Okay, so just 4 problems to write a function that represents the situation. So it's going to, what you're looking for is, what's your A, what's the starting amount or initial amount, what's your rate, and then change the rate from a percent to a decimal. Left 2 spaces. Okay, so